Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this morning's study, and we're going to continue looking at this chronology of Jeremiah as it's related to the kings of Judah from the time that Jeremiah prophesies and the time of Josiah till the end of Zedekiah. But before we do, let's have a word of prayer. Dear Father in heaven, we are so grateful, Lord, that we can study together again. And we invite your presence here in our midst. As we open your word, we ask that we can be guided by your Spirit, that the things that we study will enlighten our minds and change our character. We know, Lord, that there's many things we do not understand, and so we need your help in studying these things. And we know that we've made many mistakes and we have assumptions built into our thinking, and we just pray, Lord, that you can help us as we sort through this chronology. I pray that you can be with each person, bless them, bless those that watch this video. May they be drawn to you and to your word. And we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, so going through this chronology of Jeremiah and laying down these dates was very, very helpful. And of course, I had made this mistake when I originally made the chart that I had, where I forgot to put in Zedekiah's accession year. So that was confusing me, but we sorted that out. And Stephen, at the end of the study yesterday, mentioned about the 3 years of Daniel. And we'll look at that again. Obviously, there's lots of little details that we have to sort out. So whether that test happens in 604, whether it happens in 603, we'll have to take a look at that. So as far as we know, we can't tell. I mean, there's no definite way, but maybe there's something we can notice that will help us. Now, we also dealt near the end with Gedaliah's murder. So one of the things about this is that we have in Jeremiah 41, there's this conspiracy to kill Gedaliah. Now, Gedaliah is the governor of Jerusalem, and he's put in place. Well, he's put in place by Nebuchadnezzar, is my understanding. I mean, maybe I'm wrong on that, but that's what I understood that. Yeah, it says here, whom the king of Babylon had made governor over the land. So he's not a king. So instead of putting a king over the land, he put a governor. Now, why would he do that? What's the difference? And we got this word governor, which is 6485. The word itself, put it here, means numbered, visit, punish, visited, number, appoint, set, appointed, governor. So it's got this underlying meaning. Numbered is kind of interesting, but they translate it here, which is the word occurs 297 times. 4 times it's translated as governor. So if we look at the word itself, so that was just the King James Concordance. So pakad, to attend, to muster, number, reckon, visit, and we looked at this word in the context of visiting, right? So God is going to, visit his people, at the time when Babylon falls, right? So in visiting his people, he's going to have Babylon fall. So it's the same word. But here it's he had made governor over the land. So, and it says, now it came to pass in the 7th month that Ishmael, the son of Nethaniah, the son of Elishama, of the seed royal and the princes of the king, even 10 men with him, came unto Gedaliah, the son of Ahikam, to Mizpah, and there they did eat bread together at Mizpah. Then arose Ishmael, the son of Nethaniah, and 10 men that were with him, and smote Gedaliah, the son of Ahikam, the son of Shaphan, with the sword, and slew him whom the king of Babylon had made governor over the land. Ishmael also slew all the Jews that were with him, even with Gedaliah, at Mizpah, and the Chaldeans that were found there, and the men of war. And it came to pass the 2nd day after he had slain Gedaliah, that no man knew it, that that there came certain from Shechem, from Shiloh, and from Samaria, even 80 men, having their beards shaven and their clothes rent, and having cut themselves with offerings and incense in their hand, to bring them to the house of the Lord. And Ishmael the son of Nethaniah went forth from Mizpah to meet them, weeping all along as he went. And it came to pass, as he met them, he said unto them, Come to Gedaliah the son of Ahikam. And it was so, when they came unto the midst of the city, that Ishmael the son of Nethaniah slew them and cast them into the midst of the pit, he and the men that were with him. But 10 men were found among them that said unto Ishmael, Slay us not, for we have treasures in the field of wheat and of barley and of oil and of honey. So he forbare and slew them not among their brethren. Now the pit wherein Ishmael had cast all the dead bodies of the men whom he had slain because of Gedaliah was it which Asa the king had made for fear of Baasha the king of Israel. And Ishmael the son of Nethaniah filled it with them that were slain. So this goes back to that old story of Baasha, right? So it's interesting. Then Ishmael carried away captive all the residue of the people that were at Mizpah, even the king's daughters, and all the people that remained in Mizpah, whom Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, had committed to Gedaliah, the son of Ahikam. And Ishmael, the son of Nethaniah, carried them away captive and departed to go over to the Ammonites. And when Johanan, the son of Kareah, and all the captains of the forces that were with him heard of all the evil that Ishmael, the son of Nethaniah, had done, then they took all the men and went to fight with Ishmael, the son of Nethaniah, and found him by the great waters that are in Gibeon. Now it came to pass that when all the people which were with Ishmael saw Johanan, the son of Kareah, and all the captains of the forces that were with him, then they were glad. So all the people that Ishmael had carried away captive from Mizpah cast about and returned and went unto Johanan the son of Kareah. But Ishmael the son of Nethaniah escaped from Johanan with 8 men and went to the Ammonites. Then took Johanan the son of Kareah and all the captains of the forces that were with him, and all the remnant of the people whom he had recovered from Ishmael the son of Nethaniah from Mizpah, after that he had slain Gedaliah the son of Ahikam, even mighty men of war, and the women and the children and the eunuchs, whom he had brought again from Gibeon. And they departed and dwelt in the habitation of Cheham, which is by Bethlehem, to go to enter into Egypt, because of the Chaldeans, for they were afraid of them, because Ishmael the son of Nethaniah had slain Gedaliah the son of Ahikam, whom the king of Babylon made governor in the land. So it's kind of a sordid story. I'm not sure if I fully understand all of the implications of this story, but just dealing with the chronological aspects first, and we dealt with this yesterday. So this is the 7th month. So this is technically, if we were going fall to fall, then that would be a different year, right? But if we're going spring to spring, then it's in the same year. And it seems to be in the way that this is understood. So this is going to be dealing with Gedaliah being, okay, boy. So I'm just to try to think here. So you got the fall of Jerusalem. So it says in the 9th year of Zedekiah, king of Judah, in the 10th month, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and all the army against Jerusalem, and they besieged it. And in the 11th year of Zedekiah, in the 4th month, in the 9th day of the month, the city was broken up. So we know that that's going to be when the walls are broken down. That's the end of the siege. But of course, there's still going to be all of this dealing with the destruction of the city itself. And then you're going to have Nebuzaradan, right, the captain of the guard, right, and then how does this go? I don't know, maybe we should read all of this. I'm not certain because there's a lot of details here. Yeah, because even in the chapter 41, there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes on before you get to chapter 41 dealing with these characters. Anyway, the point that I'm trying to make chronologically is that when it talks here about the seventh month, it's not going to give us a different year, right? So this to me is one of the evidences that Zedekiah's reign is being counted spring to spring. It's not absolutely certain because they could just be talking about within that numbered years, but normally if you're going to talk about something that happened in a certain year, in a certain month, and then you're going to mention another event and give it a date, the month, if it was in a different year of Zedekiah's reign, then they would have said so. So we've taken the position that Zedekiah's reign is counted spring to spring. And that solves all kinds of problems with Ezekiel. Now, we also know that Ezekiel is going to be counting the years of the captivity, not in an ordinal count in the way that you would normally do that. You would normally say, like in the year of the captivity, the first year of the captivity is, the year it happens. The second year would be the second ordinal year. But he actually counts it as if Jehoiachin is reigning. So when he talks about, for instance, and we're going to go over this, and we've gone over it, but just so that it's solid in everyone's mind, that in Ezekiel, when he talks about it came to pass in the 30th year, we know that's the 30th year of the Jubilee cycle. In the 4th month and the 5th day of the month, he's going to be among the captives by the river of Kibar. And in the 5th day of the month, which was the 5th year of King Jehoiachin's captivity. So Jehoiachin had been taken captive. And if this is the 5th year of Jehoiachin's captivity, one of the things that we see here in this chart is that there is an overlapping that occurs between the years of the captivity and the years of Zedekiah's reign. That is, generally speaking, well, I shouldn't say generally speaking, but we know that from the 1st month to the 6th month, it doesn't matter whether you're counting spring to spring or fall to fall, right? You could say it's in the 5th year, if it was in the 5th year of Jehoiachin's captivity, in the 5th day of the 4th month, well, it doesn't really matter whether, you had a spring to spring or fall to fall. As far as if you knew what year that was, you would know it's the same year, right? Now, where the problem arises is when you have something in the 7th to the 12th month, then those counts are going to happen differently. So for instance, if we look at this chart, I'll zoom in a little bit more. So we got Ezekiel 1, verse 1 to 2. We're saying here that he's in the 5th year of Jehoiachin's captivity, and I don't have this in the right spot. What's wrong here? So this should be, this is the spring. Well, I see I put this in the wrong spot. Okay, so I need to move this over. Yeah, so this is in 592. This is like in July. It's the 5th day of the 4th month. So it's like between here. These lines aren't perfectly aligned how they should be. Okay. So you can see this is also in the 5th year of Zedekiah's reign. Right? That is, here we have this blue. This is Jehoiachin's captivity. It says right there, captivity. And you can see that the 5th year, if you look at these years up here, you got 592 and 593. So the 5th year of Jehoiachin's captivity begins in the fall of 593, and it ends in the fall of 592. So if you're in the 4th month, the 5th day of the 4th month, you're going to be between the 1st month and the 7th month somewhere. And that's where Ezekiel 1, verse 1 to 2 is. But you can see it's also the 5th year of Zedekiah's reign, right? You can see that they overlap here. From this is the 1st month, and this is the 7th month. They're not really, I need to kind of straighten this out and make it more proportional, because it's always shift over a little bit. I think both the fall and the spring, there's not as much. You can see these lines aren't exactly in the middle, but I'll fix that later and make it neater. But anyway, you can see that they overlap. right? And so then when we're dealing with dates in Ezekiel, Ezekiel is using this count for some dates, but at other times he's just using Zedekiah's reign. Now, Jeremiah is always using Zedekiah's reign in this way. So he's not using some other count for Zedekiah's reign. Or, he's using this spring to spring count. And we know that because the siege is going to begin in the 9th year. So if we go here, we're going to have to put this siege in here. So that's why so let's go back. So if we go to Jeremiah 39:1, we need to put this in here. So it says, in the 9th year of Zedekiah, king of Judah, in the 10th month. Now we know from Ezekiel that it's not just in the 10th month when the siege begins, but it's what date? What day of the 10th month?
Which chapter did you say you was in?
Well, I'm just saying in Ezekiel. I didn't say which chapter I was in Ezekiel. We're in Jeremiah 39.
I thought you said Jeremiah.
Jeremiah 39 verse 1. Yeah. Jeremiah 39 verse 1 says it's in the 9th year of Zedekiah in the 10th month. But we know in Ezekiel 24:1, here, I'll just show you. So this is the one where the siege begins. Now Ezekiel is in Babylon, right? And he has prophesied this siege, this coming siege. And then he's going to give it in chapter 20 to 23, these prophecies against these other nations. And then in chapter 24, he's, or is it the other way around? No, in chapter 20 to 23, he talks about the destruction of Jerusalem. That's the vision that's on the 10th day of the 5th month, right? In the 6th year of Jehoiachin's captivity. Okay. Let me see. Right. So 7th year of Jehoiachin's captivity. It doesn't say in the captivity particular. It just says it came to pass in the 7th year in the 5th month and the 10th day of the month. So it wouldn't matter whether it's Jehoiachin's captivity or Zedekiah's reign. The 7th year is still going to overlap from the 1st month to the 6th month. So this is in the 5th month and the 10th day of the month that he's going to have this vision. Right? So this is the one with Ezekiel 20:12, giving you the Sabbath as a sign, right? And 20:20. Okay, so in 24, he's going to say, in the 9th year, in the 10th month, in the 10th day of the month, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, write the name of the day, even this same day, that is this bone day. It doesn't say self-same. Sometimes this phrase will be translated as self-same day, but here it's just translated as same day, but it's still the same expression. This bone day. The king of Babylon set himself against Jerusalem this bone day, right? So he's going to repeat that, double it. It has to do with the second angel's message. And also it's this symbol of this date, the 10th day of the 5th month, which is going to mark the destruction of the temple in the 11th year, so 4 years later, and then also the destruction of the temple in 70 AD. On the 10th day of the 5th month. Okay, so we know here specifically the day, and he has this vision on that day telling him that Jerusalem is being besieged on that day. So he's 500 miles away, and he's told about an event that happens 500 miles away. So when we go to Jeremiah 39, verse 1, in the 9th year of Zedekiah, king of Judah, in the 10th month, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. Right, and besieged it. It's the 10th day of the 10th month. So when we mark this on this chart, we'll just copy this line here. So we can go here that it's going to be in the 9th year, and it's right here.
Chapter verse 2 says is the 11th year, does it?
Yeah, that's going to be when the siege ends, right? So the siege begins Maybe I'll put this on this side. And that's Jeremiah 39, 1. Okay, now the siege is going to end in the 11th year, right? Oh, I see what I did wrong. Okay, I'll fix that later. Just
Was it
space.
about 2 years?
Well, it's a year and a half,
Yeah.
right? So if I had counted the reign of Zedekiah, spring, a fall to fall instead of spring to spring, then this 10th month of the 9th year, so I would have to use like this count here, you see here. See, this is Jehoiachin's reign, if he was reigning. Then this would be a fall to fall count. And then this would actually be 1 year earlier. So if you took the position that the 9th year is fall to fall, just as the other kings of Judah are, then you would say that the siege began in 588, right? So it would have to start a year earlier. Okay. Now, if you still had, you could still have 586 for the fall of Jerusalem, except that the siege would be 2.5 years, not 18 months, right? Does that make sense to people? Because the 11th year, that month, the fourth month, the 9th day of the fourth month in which the city falls, the city is broken up. That's in the months that are between the spring and the fall. And so when you have a fall to fall calendar, it could throw things off, right? So this is where this disagreement comes from. Now, those who that take the fall to fall calendar for Zedekiah's reign, who are going to have 588, such as the Seventh-day Adventist Sabbath School Quarterly, when they dealt with, which book was it that they did it? I think it was the book of Jeremiah, when they went through the book of Jeremiah. I think that was the book they studied. They had a 2.5 year siege, right? Because they used the fall to fall reign for Zedekiah instead of spring to spring. Does that make sense to everyone? Is that clear that how that affects it? Because you could see if the 10th month is still always the 10th month from the spring. So if you counted it in the 9th year, you would have to have it in 588, 1 year earlier, right? It would have to be in this, what in the spring to spring calendar is the 8th year, right? Because they overlap. And so to me, this is a really important point in understanding how Ezekiel was counting Zedekiah's reign, and of course how Jeremiah would be counting it as well, because they're going to give the same year. So we know Zedekiah's reign is counted the same as Ezekiel counts Zedekiah's reign, because they have the siege start in the 9th year. But we know that Ezekiel is also using a fall to fall calendar, and that they're not the same. So when he talks about the years of the captivity in Ezekiel, he's talking about that fall to fall count. When he's just talking about the years of Zedekiah's reign, he's using the spring to spring, just as Jeremiah is. Okay. Then you can see the siege is going to end. So if we copy this, so the siege is going to end in the 11th year, in 586, in the fourth month. So we'll just put this here. Okay. And then I have to make this longer. And that's 39 verse 2. So the fourth month, the 9th day of the month. So you can see that span is a year and a half. Now, technically, it's because you're going from the 10th day of the 10th month, but there is actually a leap month in that span of time. So, often we say it's 18 months, right? Because it's going to start in January, beginning of January, January, February, March, April, May, June, and then it's going to be July 18th. So that's going to be 6 months on our calendar, plus 12 days, and then a year. right? So sometimes we just say 18 months or a year and a half, right? So we have the 390 years going to the siege, and then we have that year and a half. So we say 391 and a half. But we can understand that's not 18 months on the biblical calendar. It's 19 months, and 19 months less a day, because you're in from the 10th day of the 10th month to the 9th day of the 4th month. And then if you're going to the date that the temple is destroyed, it's actually 20 months from the beginning of the siege exactly, because it's going to be destroyed on the 10th day of the 5th month. And so you would think, well, if you're going from the 10th day of the 10th month, that would be just 7 months, right? But we have a leap year in there. So we have an extra month. So that I'm trying to remember where the leap year is put in there. I think it's at the end of that year that the siege begins, where you have the leap month. Okay. Any questions about this? Okay. So to me, that seems pretty clear. But I had to figure it out at one point. Well, it wasn't clear until I figured it out. So we're going to have, we're not going to read over all this right now. We're trying to look at the chronology. I don't think there's anything there that we need to know to figure out the chronology at this point. Oh, one other thing I want to look at here is Jeremiah 52:31. Now, the thing about Jeremiah didn't write all of the book of Jeremiah, right? There are parts of Jeremiah that are taken from other places. But it is interesting here. So this one relating to Jehoiachin's captivity. So I want to look at this. This is also in 2 Kings, I believe. I think it's in 2 Kings. Yeah, 2 Kings 25, verse 27 to 30. Okay. It came to pass in the 37th year of the captivity of Jehoiachin. Now, remember that Ezekiel, when he counts the captivity of Jehoiachin, he's counting it as Jehoiachin's reign. But this is not Ezekiel. So this is a different way of counting the captivity of Jehoiachin. That is, it's counting it ordinally, right? From the month that he's taken captive to the month that he's released, as we will see. So it came to pass in the 30th year, so the 37th year of the captivity of Jehoiachin, king of Judah, in the 12th month, in the 25th day of the month. So that's December 25th. Well, it's not December, but you know what I mean. It's Adar 25. It's a symbol of December 25th. That evil Merodach, which, his mom shouldn't have given him that name. But anyway, king of Babylon, in the first year of his reign, lifted up the head of Jehoiachin, king of Judah, and brought him forth out of prison. Now, here we can see that it says in the first year. First is an added word. It just says in the Hebrew, it just has the word Shana. Right, so there's Shana. Of his reign, that's Malkuth, which is based on the word Malek, which means king, right? So when evil Merodach begins to reign, that's going to be in the period of time where it's not really the first year of his reign, because when does the first reign of evil Merodach begin? He's a king of Babylon. So what time of the year does his reign begin? When would we count his first year?
Wouldn't that be in the spring?
Yeah, it'd be in the spring. So the first day of the first month is going to be the first year of his reign. Now, this is the 12th month, so it's before the first day of the first month. So technically, this is in his accession year, right? That makes sense? And this is going to be on the 25th day of the 12th month. The 12th month, as they're counting it here, of course, is the Jewish 12th month, because the Babylonians would give it the month Adaru. But here they're using the Jewish numbering in the book of Jeremiah. Now, Jeremiah wouldn't have written this, because we know that Jeremiah continues to the reign of to the end of the reign of Zechariah, right? And this is going to be quite a bit after. So somebody added this to the book of Jeremiah, but we're going to see it differs from that which is in 2 Kings 25. So it's kind of some interesting details here. So we're going to see that we got that first year of his reign, lifted up the head of Jehoiachin, king of Judah, brought him forth out of the prison, and spake kindly unto him, and set his throne above the throne of the kings that were with him in Babylon, and changed his prison garments, and he did continually, and that word continually, you should all be familiar with it as Seventh-day Adventists. It's the word tamid, right? Daily, right? Eat bread with him before all the days of his life. And for his diet there was a continual diet given him of the king of Babylon every day, a portion until the day of his death, all the days of his life. Now, this is an important point because we know in Leviticus 26, when we deal with the third 7 times, which is Jehoiachin's captivity, that it talks about this grain ration tablet, right? Or the grain ration tablet talks about that they shall measure his bread by weight. And so that's actually in the grain ration tablet. It's also mentioned in Jeremiah 52:34 that there is this diet given to Jehoiachin. Now, for the critics of the Bible who, think this stuff was all made up later on, that's a pretty difficult thing to just overlook. So here we have this about his, portion of his food, about Jehoiachin, and yet we have the actual Babylonian documents. One telling us that Jehoiachin is taken captive, when he's taken captive, but also his grain ration tablet, right? So that this is not something you would just make up and put in a book, because it wouldn't have been, the archaeological records weren't found until the 19th century. So yeah, it's one of those evidences that critics often overlook, that they can't explain. Well, they don't even notice them, I think, for the most part. Most people don't notice this. Okay. And then we have in 2 Kings 25, and here you're going to have in 2 Kings 25, you're also going to have, it came to pass in the 9th year of his reign, in the 10th month, and the 10th day of the month, that Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came he and all his host against Jerusalem, and pitched against it, and they built forts against it round about. So that's interesting. You have in this chapter, you have this dealing with the captivity of Zedekiah, right, when the city is besieged, unto the 11th year of King Zedekiah, in the 9th day of the 4th month. The famine prevailed in the city, and there was no bread for people of the land. Now here, notice they have 4th month added. That is, it's not in this text, but it is in the other places. So it's just kind of an interesting detail that this account leaves out the 4th month, but they have to add it just for clarification. The 9th day of the month, what month? It doesn't say. Okay, so they have to put 4th month in there. The translators do. Okay, now the city was broken up, all the men of war fled by night by the way of the gate between the 2 walls, which by the king's garden. Now the Chaldees were against the city round about, and the king went the way toward the plain. And the army of the Chaldees pursued after the king and overtook him in the plains of Jericho, and all his army were scattered from him. Now, and this is recorded in Ezekiel, a prophecy about what was going to happen with Zedekiah, which is interesting that it actually does. So how he was taken captive. And they took the king and brought him up to the king of Babylon to Riblah, and they gave judgment upon him, and they slew the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes, and put out of the eyes of Zedekiah, and bound him with fetters of brass, and carried him to Babylon. So the same account that we read about in Jeremiah. And so why do they kill his sons before him and then take out his eyes? Put out his eyes. It's a pretty cruel thing to do.
Isn't it showing the dependency they would now have to have on Babylon?
Yeah. Well, that would be part of it. But the last thing he's going to see is his sons being killed, right? So it's a pretty cruel thing to do. So then it says, in the 5th month, on the 7th day of the month, which is the 19th year of King Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came Nebuzaradan, captain of the guard, a servant to the king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem. And he burnt the house of the Lord and the king's house, and all the houses of Jerusalem, and every great man's house burnt he with fire. Now here in this passage, it says it's on the 7th day of the 5th month, in the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, that Nebuzaradan, king, captain of the guard, comes in and burns the house of the Lord. Now, if you read this, what people say is this is a contradiction between what we find in Jeremiah, right? In Jeremiah, let me see, that's going to be, in Jeremiah 52. So let's go there. Now, in the 5th month, on the 10th day of the month, which is the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came Nebuzaradan, captain of the guard, which served the king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem, and burnt the house of the Lord and the king's house, and all the houses of Jerusalem, and all the houses of the great men burnt he with fire. It's basically the same account, except it says the 10th day of the month, of the 5th month, instead of the 7th day. So how would we reconcile this apparent discrepancy? One says the 7th day of the 5th month, the other says the 10th day of the 5th month. So we have this difference between what it says in Jeremiah and what it says in 2 Kings.
Would the 7th day be when he began that destruction, and then the 10th day when it was accomplished?
Yeah, so that's generally how it's understood. It's not a typo. But we can see that in 2 Kings and in Jeremiah, that they sometimes use different dates. That is, they have a different perspective on how to measure that. So he came Nebuzaradan, captain of the guard, a servant of the king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem. Right? So he's going to come to Jerusalem on that day, and then he's going to go into the city. Right? Now here it says, he burnt the house of the Lord, and the king's house, and all the houses of Jerusalem, and every great man's house burnt he with fire. So obviously he didn't do that in a single day, right? And then when we go again to 52, in the 5th month, on the 10th day of the month, which was the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came Nebuzaradan, captain of the guard, which served the king of Babylon, into Jerusalem. Now, one says unto Jerusalem, one says into Jerusalem. Now, we can look at the Hebrew and see if there's any difference. So when we go to the Hebrew for this verse, we can see that we have a bet in front of the word Jerusalem, right? So that's right here. So this funny thing here, like Babel, you see the BBL, that's Babel, Babylon. Right, and then it has a B, and then you have Yod, Rosh, Vav, Shin, Lamed, Mem, the final Mem. So that's Yerushalayim, and then this just means in, right? So the word, the bet means in. Now, if we go to this one, 25, what's the verse? 25 verse 27. Here it is. No, that was the one. That's the one. We wanted 25:8. Okay. So this one doesn't have the bet in front of Jerusalem. So see that? You got Babel, and then you have Yerushalayim, right? King of Babylon, right, comes to Jerusalem. So in the one, it doesn't have into. And the one that, so this is the one where it's going to say, as you see here, in the 5th month, in the 7th day, in the 7th, it just doesn't say day, in the 7th of the month, right? So it doesn't say day of the month. So in the 5th month, in the 7th of the month, okay? So we can see that in this one, it just says Jerusalem. Here, I'll go back to English. right? So in the 5th month, on the 7th day of the month, which is the 19th year, it's the king of Babylon came unto Jerusalem. So in the 7th day, he just comes to Jerusalem. When we look at it in Jeremiah, it says into. So he gets to Jerusalem on the 5th day of the 7th, or the 7th day of the 5th month, but he's going to be in Jerusalem just doing this destruction, burning the temple on the 10th day of the 5th month. So you can see it's not just that they changed the one number, but they actually changed what is being said, what is being described. Okay. So then when we go to this section at the end dealing with Jehoiachin's release in Jeremiah, right, it's going to tell us that it's on the 12th month and the 25th day of the month. Then we notice this here, how they describe the beginning of his reign. So when we go to 2 Kings 27 to 30, it's going to say, it came to pass in the 7 and 30th year of the captivity of Jehoiachin, saying, the king of Judah in the 12th month, saying, in the 7 and 20th day of the month. So this one's going to say it's Adaru 27, or the 27th of Adaru, the 27th day of the 12th month, not the 25th day of the 12th month. That evil Merodach, the king of Babylon, in the year that he began to reign, did lift up his head, the head of Jehoiachin, king of Judah, out of prison. So it looks much the same, but it's a little bit different. So now this says here, in the year that he began to reign. Now, we still have the same Hebrew numbers here, right? That is, when we look at it in Jeremiah 52, right? It says, they translate this. You can see you got in the year of his reign. Well, I think that's a different number. Is that the same number? Okay. Yeah, so 4427, Malek. And the other one has 4428. So it is a slightly Melech, right? But they still have 4438 and for 4438 Malkuth. Okay. So Malkuth. So they have a related word, but not the exact same word. Yeah. So this one began to reign 4427. Now, if we look at the Hebrew itself, okay, so word order is a little bit different. So we got in the year and Malek, in the year of the king, right? So they're going to give this phrase a little bit differently. And if we go to Jeremiah and we look at it, it's going to say, so they have Shanat, and again, they just have Malekuth. Yeah. So there's just that difference basically of this word 4438 to rule. Now why would they do this? Why are they going to have because what's happening here? We have Jehoiachin, he's being released from prison. So he lifts up the head of Jehoiachin, king of Judah, brought him forth out of prison. I thought there was some other detail that was different. So I'm just looking at these numbers here. Bahith, that means, okay, from the house of the prison. So from the prison house. Okay, so it's just the prison house. That's all that's there. Jehoiachin lifts up the head of Jehoiachin. That's going to be NASA. That's the, the NSA and NASA, NASA. Began to reign. So we just have that one word difference as far as I can tell. I'm just going to compare back. Brought him forth, Yatsa, out of prison. So again, you got the prison house. Lifts up the head. Same thing. Okay. So why does one say the 25th of the 12th month and the other one say the 27th of the 12th month? Are we getting really picky here? What are we doing? Is there any significance there? Yeah, there's another difference. Okay, so one says brought him forth. That was it. And this one just doesn't say brought him forth. So this one that says in the 27th day of the month, he brought him. So it says, did lift up the head of Jehoiachin, king of Judah, out of the prison house, and actually it's from the house of the prison. Okay, in the other one that is in Jeremiah, it gives the 25th day. It says he brought him forth out of the prison house, the house of the prison. So this one actually adds this different word. So that's Yatsa. The other one doesn't have that. So what would we conclude from this? We have these two different dates, the 27th of the 12th month and the 25th of the 12th month. But they're not exactly the same description, even though they're pretty close. Like people would say, well, one's just copying the other. Well, why is it different, right? Because most of the rest of it's the same, but there's little differences. So whoever put this in the book of Jeremiah, or whoever put it in Kings, whichever one's first, they're going to copy it a little bit differently. They're going to have a different presentation of this almost identical story. So, one is copying the other, but he's changing it, but it's not incorrect, right? Do you see the importance of what we're doing here? Why is it happening? Why does this happen? Why do we have, just like we have the 7th and the 10th day of the 5th month, but it's different? It's describing one when he came to the city, the other one when the temple is destroyed. Why do we have this, the 25th day of the 12th month and the 27th day of the 12th month? One with the phrase he's brought forth out of the prison. Now, what's happening here too? Notice this is very close to the inauguration of Evil-Merodach. So what's going on here? With why is he releasing Jehoiachin from prison in the first place? So Nebuchadnezzar has died sometime before. We don't know exactly when he dies. There's different speculations that people have on how long this is, but this is in the accession year of Evil-Merodach. And there's a well-founded tradition that Evil-Merodach had made friends with Jehoiachin, which would be logical. The fact that he's going to release him from prison after his dad, it's not his dad, his father-in-law dies. Right, because he's just the son-in-law, married to the daughter of Nebuchadnezzar. So Evil-Merodach becomes king, and he's going to begin his reign. So he's in his accession year of his reign. Nobody wants to tackle this? Can we see this as an important detail? Okay, Dwight?
Could it be that he's looking to curry the favor of some of the people that he's conquered?
Okay, explain what you mean. Why would that curry the favor of people he's conquered?
He's now come to the throne.
Yeah,
he is now,
and he's not going to be to the throne for very long.
no, what is it, about less than 3 years, really?
Yeah.
So we have a year that he ascends to the throne. He goes to accomplish certain things, and then he's assassinated, right?
Yes, that's my understanding. At some point, I can't remember exactly when and all the details of it. They used to know, but yeah. So the suggestion is that he actually became friends with Jehoiachin while Jehoiachin was in prison. So obviously, prison wasn't like down in a dungeon. He was being cared for by Nebuchadnezzar for some reason that we don't fully understand why he would keep him in prison for so long. That there's no real explanation for that. And we know Nebuchadnezzar can be quite cruel. We saw how he dealt with Zedekiah. So like any mafia boss, he's not usually the nicest guy, right, to get to the top of things. And Nebuchadnezzar, obviously is not a nice guy, but he's going to have Jehoiachin in prison and Jehoiachin's sons, right? Without that, we don't have an heir to David's throne. We don't have Christ coming, and at least not through that line, right? Because there is another line which leads to Christ, but this is the one I believe is Mary's line, that she's descended in this way. So this is really the direct line of the flesh to David's son, right? To be the mother of Jesus, where the other line, I believe, is the one that's, well, I'm pretty sure it is the one that's Joseph's, which is another son of David. But anyway.
So I have a thought.
What's that?
I have a thought.
Okay.
So evil Merodach, he has witnessed Nebuchadnezzar having 7 years madness, and then he's going to come out and extol the God of the Hebrews. So therefore, evil Merodach is going to say, okay, this is the king of the God of the Hebrews. I will show favor to him.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we can see that, just trying to figure which glasses I should be wearing. My vision's blurry. I think it's just something in my eye. Okay. Yeah, so that makes sense, right? We have Nebuchadnezzar just previously had recovered from his insanity for 7 years. Now, evil Merodach then, when he, and so there's a number of things about Nebuchadnezzar. He has respect for the God of the Hebrews, right?
Agreed.
Okay. So I think that's the only reason that he keeps Jehoiachin in prison rather than killing him. It's the only thing I can think. That there's sort of this underlying respect for the God of the Hebrews. Now, of course, when it comes to Zedekiah, that, his mercy is, of course, non-existent because of what Zedekiah has done. But so all of the work that Daniel had done with Nebuchadnezzar, and he's basically an administrator in the court as well. So we have to remember Daniel's still in Babylon, right? So there's a lot of influences going on there. So even with evil Merodach, we don't have the story about evil Merodach really in any kind of detail. We have some traditions about him making friends with Jehoiachin, but we don't know what influence Daniel was having in this situation as well. So a lot of these things we don't really think about, right? We sort of compartmentalize, these stories, the story of Daniel, the story of Ezekiel, the story of Jeremiah, but these are all going on at the same time. So I think Daniel has an influence as well. What happened to Nebuchadnezzar has an influence. Now then we have this little difference about the day in which his head is lifted up, right? So I take the position that he's brought forth out of the prison in the 25th day of the month, but that the ceremony regarding that, so there's some kind of ceremony in connection with the inauguration that's coming up, that marks the 27th day of the 12th month, because that one more focuses not on him being brought out of the prison, but his head being lifted up from the prison. Does that make sense to people? That this is not a contradiction.
That could work.
Yeah. Now it's interesting here, just because we have the Treasury of Scripture Knowledge up there, and they're going to have 562 BC, and nearly answering our 25th of April, right? Which is of course incorrect. So it's 561. Right, just back then when the translators did this, they didn't have the information that we have. So we know it's in 561.
561 is when he started to reign, right?
Yeah, that's when the first year of his reign begins. And now I'm not sure why they say the 25th of April. So, if we go back here, even if you had 562 BC, And of course, it's hard to know what, but it's definitely not going to be the 25th of April in 562, because if you went to the 25th day of the month Adaru on the Babylonian calendar, we're going to use that. That's going to be April 12th, 562. So they have it like a year early.
That's what Wikipedia's got on it. He reigned it in five.
Five what? William? You got cut off.
No, the Wikipedia got 562 on it.
Yeah, but 562 before the end of the year, right? So Evil-Merodach begins his reign in 562, his accession year, is generally what the Wikipedia say. So if you're on the 12th month, you're in 561, right? So if we're going to count the first year of his reign, it's going to start in 561 on March. So that's going to be
he reigned less than 15 months.
Less than 15 months, so it's a year that they get for
less than 50, less than 50, less than 1,500, 15, a year and 5 months. He reigned a year and 5 months.
Year and 5 months. Okay, yeah, maybe. I don't know. I used to know the different opinions about it. I think I just have him reigning 1 year, if I remember correctly, but it was 1 or 2 years that either he dies in the second year of his reign, but I can't remember. But anyway, so the first day of the first month in 561 is April 6th. So that's Nisanu 1. And that's the first year of Evil-Merodach, right? So this is the Babylonian Chronicles. So they clearly mark that Evil-Merodach begins the first year of his reign in 561. That's his inauguration. So this here, if we look at this date and we go back to the 27th day of Adaru would be April 2nd, and then the 25th would be March 31st. So we remember that he's taken captive on March 16th, right? March 16th, 597, and then he's going to be released on, so I'm going to put this in here. Like I know I find all this stuff really interesting, whether everybody else does or not. So we're going to have his Jehoiachin's captivity here. And where did my marker go? Anyway, you got Jehoiachin's captivity. I've marked it over here at the beginning of Zedekiah's reign. So this is going to be, so he's going to have his captivity here. So this is going to be, we'll just use the Jeremiah reference. So it's Jeremiah 52:31. I'm going to put the date in there. No, that's the other one. So this would be, what's this one? This is, okay, so this, anyway, I'm going to put this over here on the other side. I just, March 31st, 561. I got to move this one over here. So this one's going to go over on this other side, but here I'll copy and paste this. So which is the verse where we have Jehoiachin's captivity? That was, trying to remember where that is in Jeremiah. Okay, so this is, okay, so this, I guessed it right, 26. No, not quite. So this is just saying, this is an event that happens at the beginning of the reign of Jehoiakim. That's Jehoiakim, not Jehoiachin. Okay, no. So I gotta go.
Would it be the fourth month in the 9th day of the month? I think it's verse 6.
No, that's the end of Zedekiah's reign. So where we got to go to is here. It's where it talks about Jeconiah. Okay. Oh, it's 27:20. Okay, so that has, so maybe we have to go to Kings. So this one, 2 Kings 24:15. Now, it doesn't give a date, right? It's in the Babylonian Chronicles that we have the date. I know you're looking at the chart, not what I'm looking at. So here, go back here. Okay, so he carried away Jehoiachin to Babylon, and the king's mother, and the king's wives, and his officers, and the mighty men of the land. Those he carried away captivity from Jerusalem to Babylon. Okay, so we have that in 2 Kings 24. And then in Jeremiah 22, it's prophecy about what's going to happen to him. I'll give thee into the hand of them who seek thy life, into the hand of them whose face thou fearest, even into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and into the hand of the Chaldeans. Is this man Coniah a despised broken idol? Is he a vessel wherein is no pleasure? Wherefore are they cast out, he and his seed, and are cast into the land which they know not? O earth, 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 hear the word of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord, write ye this man childless, a man that shall not prosper in his days, for no man of his seed shall prosper, sitting upon the throne of David and ruling any more in Judah. So it's not that he is actually childless. He might be childish, but none of his kids are going to sit upon the throne, right? So that's the idea. So it's as if he is childless. Okay, but we don't have in Jeremiah then specifically the captivity of Jehoiachin, I guess. Just a prophecy regarding that. Okay, so we'd have to go to 2 Kings to get that. So, but
is this the 8th year of his reign of King Babylon, right? When he took Jehoiachin.
Okay, what's that?
Was it the 8th year of his reign? Is that Nebuchadnezzar's reign?
Yeah, Nebuchadnezzar's reign. Yeah. So it's going to be in ABC, not percent, 5. It's going to have the second day of the 12th month. That's when he's taken captive, right? So it's March 16th, 597. And then we're going to move this over here. Do this. So it's going to be way over here that his reign ends. Or not his reign, his captivity ends. Right? So at the beginning of the reign. So this is in the 36th year of the captivity we have here. And where we're marking this, so this is, I didn't finish changing this. So here, so you got 579. So this should be 569. I was doing this earlier. I'm just changing these dates. Oops. Just added these extra years on here so that I could put this in. So you can see what I have there is the years of the captivity as counted by Ezekiel. So Ezekiel's counting these years of the captivity, fall to fall. And when we mark this event, I'm going to have to pull these lines. I'm going to go all the way over to 561. I'll go up here. So you're going to have it in 561 in the spring, and that's going to be March 31st. Now you can see, according to Ezekiel's count, this is the 36th year of the captivity. But according to Jeremiah, it's the 37th year of the captivity. So remember, he is counting the captivity as if Jehoiachin is still reigning. So that means he has an accession year. He doesn't start with 1, he starts with 0. And of course, it's a fall-to-fall count. But the count in Jeremiah and in 2 Kings is just counting an ordinal count. Now you can see, if you started on March 16th and the second day of the 12th month, and now you're on the 25th day of the 12th month, 36 years later, that you would call it the 37th year of the captivity, right? So that would be the normal way that you would count the years of the captivity as an event. But that's not how Ezekiel is doing it, right? Now, so when we work through these types of things, we work through this chronology in the way that we have done this. People don't do it this way, right? We're doing something that's actually fairly fairly unique. It's very detailed because when people look at these things, and I've read like hundreds of books in chronology, thousands of articles. Now, I just say people are sloppy. They're probably just normal. Is the problem, right? To work on the types of details that we have to look at to sort through this requires a lot of time, and it requires an attention to detail that most people don't have. And it's a lot of information, right? But you can see that people will look at this as a contradiction if they even looked at it, right? They would say, well, if you're counting the 36th year of the captivity, the same in both places, if you're counting the years of the captivity and the same in both places in Ezekiel and Jeremiah, well, then you would have to put this in the 37th year. You would have to move it to like to 560, right? But you can see that they're doing it differently. Ezekiel and Jeremiah are counting differently. Okay, so it's going to be 36 years, and on our calendar, 15 days, right? Because you're going to go from March 16th to March 31st. That's 15 days. I'm doing my math right. So it's 36 years and 15 days. So that's the 37th year. And this aligns with history. So we know that Nebuchadnezzar is going to die in 562, right near the end of 562 is the belief that I've seen. And then Evil Merodach is going to begin his reign, his first year of his reign in 561. And his releasing Jehoiachin from prison, the fact that Jehoiachin's in prison has to do with the influence of Daniel, first with Nebuchadnezzar, right, that we see right at the beginning of the book of Daniel. We know Daniel has a powerful position within the kingdom of Babylon. The tradition is that Evil Merodach befriends Jehoiachin, so they become friends while Jehoiachin's in prison. So, he's a king, he's in prison, he's not being tortured or starved or anything like that. And then when he comes to the throne, when Nebuchadnezzar dies and Evil Merodach becomes king, he's going to release Jehoiachin from prison. Now, we don't particularly know all the details of what happens to Jehoiachin's sons, but we know that that Christ is going to descend from one of those sons that would also have been in prison. Whatever this prison was like, I don't know. I don't think it was a terrible type of prison. Probably be like a Canadian prison, Yeah. Prisoners in Canada live better than the average Canadian. Maybe not quite, but they live pretty good. Just they don't have their freedom. Or maybe a prisoner in like Sweden or someplace like that, or Finland. Anyway, so you can see this is important details in sorting through this chronology. It helps us understand the different counts. So the types of counts that Ezekiel uses, the types of counts that Jeremiah is using, and the type of counts that Daniel is using as well. And this aligns with history, with reality. And to me, that's always important, that when we start with the Bible as the standard, we believe that the Bible is true and that it will fit reality. But since it's true and it fits reality, we find that it does fit reality. Like, we don't have to stretch things to get things to fit. We don't have to have a mathematical Procrustean bed, right? We don't have to decide that, this is a mistranslation, or that's a wrong, when they copied it, they made an error, or somebody tried to correct the text, or the Bible's just wrong. Somebody got it wrong. We can see that, and we don't have to play around with history. We don't have to do magical stuff with history. We don't have to say there's some kind of conspiracy or that, the stars don't align because, the clock was changed or things like that, right? Everything fits. when we take the time to look at it. But if you don't believe that it's going to fit, then you can see why that type of scholarship is not going to find it fitting, because they're going to be looking for discrepancies. They're going to assume the Bible is flawed. And so it never allows them to sort out the details just because of the premise they start with. So I think there's a lot we learn by going through this chronology about God's word, about reality, and how to study. Right? So I think it's pretty interesting in that respect. So any final thoughts before we close with prayer?
Yeah, I want to ask a question. I don't know if it directly deals with what we've been studying, but
Okay.
We said that May 4th was Passover, right?
This year?
This year, yes, sir.
May
Is that right?
2nd. May 2nd this year.
I thought it was May 4th.
No, it's exactly the same as it was in 1844.
Okay, well, do we count 50 days after that, and it would be Pentecost?
Oh no. May 4th is the wave sheaf offering.
Okay.
Right? So May 2nd is Passover. That's the 14th of Nisan.
Right.
Then you would count from the 16th of Nisan, which is the wave offering. That's May 4th. So then you would count 49.
When would you count from
days.
50 days? 50
That's
days.
what I'm saying, from May 4th. But
May
it's
4th.
50 inclusive days, so 49 days.
So
That
it'd be
brings-
June. It'd be June 22nd of this year.
Yeah, that's Sivan 6, right? That's the 6th day of the third month. You know, on the calendar converter, you can always find that. Yeah. So
Okay.
just to show you here.
That's a significant date in our history, right?
Well, that's because in Millerite history, that's going to be when Samuel Snow writes his letter that's going to be published on July 18th. Or no, wait, is that right? June 22nd. No, this one's going to be published June 20th. So this is his Pentecost letter. And then he's going to have his fourth letter is going to be published on July.
So I was right by counting it from the 4th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But you can see this is the same in 1844. Like if I put 1844 in here, whoops, I just knocked one of my pencils down. You can see same thing. June 22nd, Sivan 6th, right? The only difference is the Julian calendar is going to be different, right? Because it's going to be the 9th in 1844. But this year it's the 10th in 1844. It's the 9th in 2026.
Okay.
Yeah. And then if I subtract 49 days, right, because it's 50 inclusive days, that'll bring me to Nisan 16th, May 4th, and then we know Samuel Snow's second letter was written May 2nd, which was Passover.
Okay.
Right. But in this year, of course, it's Passover again.
I know that didn't have nothing to do with what we're studying, but I was thinking about it. So
yeah, relates to the calendars at least. Okay. Thanks. So let's close with prayer. Dear Father in heaven, we are thankful, Lord, for the study, for the time that we have had, and we just pray for your blessing upon the rest of this day. Help us to contemplate these things, to understand them. Help us to obey your voice and walk in your ways. Bless each person. May your angels watch over them, is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.